The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
I come before you humbled and strengthened as I turn to my sacred text. Ecclesiastes tells us that there is nothing new under the sun. This is not the first time that we have had conflict among the people. Read the book of Exodus. Not the first time we have had conflict between our leaders. Read the book of Numbers. We need to take this moment, which is our time, to emulate the strength of those figures and stories in the 5 books of Moses that bring us bright spots to get out of this quagmire we find ourselves in today. The daughters of Zelophehad, 5 sisters who changed the laws to be inclusive of those marginalized, receiving a divine blessing. Joshua and Caleb, who returned from their scouting mission towards freedom, remaining both realistic and optimistic, visionary. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law and elder, sharing his wisdom and laying out a governance structure for shared leadership and responsibility. May you, the 91st session of the Minnesota House of Representatives, find strength as we walk toward a promised land. May you find a way to change our laws to include those historically marginalized, like the daughters of Zelophehad. May you be realistic in this time of a pandemic and economic struggles and remain visionary like Joshua and Caleb. May you sustain governance structures, protocols, and policies, keeping them strong to serve the citizens of this great state, like Jethro. May you go in your work from strength to strength. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source who brings peace from the heavens bring peace to all of us gathered here, to our world, to the streets of our cities, to the hopes of our rural areas, to the beliefs of our suburbs, as together as one state, we walk towards a better future. Amen.
Amen. The chaplain for today is Rabbi Marcia Zimmerman from Temple, Israel, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members, when the chief clerk calls the roll today to establish a quorum, please state your name, your location, and that you are present. Members using the remote voting application should also press the green or yes button when your name is called. The clerk will take the roll.
Acom.
Acom Minnetonka, present.
Acom Minnetonka, present. Agbadge. Agbadge St. Paul, present. Ackland.
Ackland, St. Paul, present.
Ackland, St. Paul, present. Albright.
Albright, Prior Lake, present.
Albright, Prior Lake, present. Anderson.
Anderson, Barsness Township, present.
Anderson, Barsness Township, present. Backer.
Backer, Browns Valley, present.
Backer, Browns Valley, present. Bonner.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present. Barr. Barr. Baker.
Baker, St. Paul, present.
Baker, St. Paul, present. Becker, Finn.
Becker, Finn, Cass Lake,
present.
Becker Finn Cass Lake, present. Bennett.
Bennett Albert Lee, present.
Bennett Albert Lee, present. Berg.
Burke St. Paul, present.
Berg St. Paul, present. Bernardi.
Bernardi, New Brighton, present.
Bernardi New Brighton, present. Bierman.
Bierman, St. Paul, present.
Bierman St. Paul, present. Bliss.
Bliss, St. Paul, present.
Bliss St. Paul, present. Bow.
Bo Chanhassen, present.
Bo Chanhassen, present. Bolden.
Bolden, St. Paul, present.
Bolden St. Paul, present. Burkle.
Burkle, Skagen Township, present.
Burkle, Skagen Township, present. Carlson.
Carlson, Bloomington, present.
Carlson, Bloomington, present. Christensen.
Christensen, Stillwater, present.
Christensen, Stillwater, present. Daniels.
Daniels, Fairbolt, present.
Daniels, Fairbolt, present. Dowd. Dowd. Davids.
Davids, Fillmore County, present.
Davids, Fillmore County, present. Davney.
Daphne, St. Paul, present.
Davney, St. Paul, present. Damath.
Damath, St. Paul, present.
Damath, St. Paul, present. Detmer.
Detmer, St. Paul, present.
Detmer, St. Paul, present. Drazkowski.
Druskowski, Winona, present.
Drazkowski, Winona, present. Eklund.
Eklund, International Falls, present.
Eklund, International Falls, present. Edelson.
Edelson, Edina, present.
Edelson, Edina, present. Elkins.
Elkins, St. Paul, present.
Elkins, St. Paul, present. Erickson.
Erickson, Princeton Township, present.
Erickson, Princeton Township, present. Feist.
Feist, St. Paul, present.
Feist, St. Paul, present. Fisher.
Fisher, St. Paul, present.
Fisher, St. Paul, present. Frankie.
Frankie, St. Paul Park, present.
Frankie, St. Paul Park, present. Franzen.
Franson, Alexandria, present.
It's not working again. Bruce has been
Franzen,
twice.
Alexandria, present. Frazier, excused. Frederick.
Frederick Mankato, present.
Frederick Mankato, present. Freiberg.
Freiberg, Golden Valley, present.
Freiberg, Golden Valley, present. Garofalo.
Garofalo, Farmington, present.
Garofalo, Farmington, present. Gomez.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present. Green.
Green, St. Paul, present.
Green, St. Paul, present. Greenman.
Greenman, St. Paul, present.
Greenman, St. Paul, present. Grossel, excused. Grunhagen.
Gruenhagen, St. Paul, present.
Grunhagen, St. Paul, present. Haley.
Haley, Red Wing, present.
Haley, Red Wing, present. Hamilton.
Hamilton, St. Paul, present.
Hamilton, St. Paul, present. Hanson, R.
Hanson R. Harmony, present.
Hanson, R. Harmony, present. Hanson, J.
Hanson J, St. Paul, present.
Hanson, J. St. Paul, present. Hassan.
Hassan, Minneapolis, present.
Hassan, Minneapolis, present. Hausman.
Hausman, St. Paul, present.
Hausman, St. Paul, present. Heinrich.
Heinrich, St. Paul, present.
Heinrich, St. Paul, present. Heinzman.
Heinzman, St. Paul, present.
Heinzman, St. Paul, present. Her, St. Paul, present. Hertos.
Hertosh, still in Greenfield, present.
Hertos, Greenfield, present. Hollins.
Collins, St. Paul, present.
Hollins, St. Paul, present. Hornstein.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present. Howard.
Howard, St. Paul, present.
Howard, St. Paul, present. Hewitt.
Hewitt, St. Paul, present.
Hewitt, St. Paul, present. Igo.
Igo, St. Paul, present.
Igo, St. Paul, present. Johnson.
Johnson, St. Paul, present.
Johnson, St. Paul, present. Jordan.
Jordan, St. Paul, present.
Jordan, St. Paul, present. Jurgens.
Jurgens, St. Paul, present.
Jurgens, St. Paul, present. Keeler.
Keeler, St. Paul, present.
Keeler, St. Paul, present. Keel.
Keel, Hammond Township, present.
Keel, Hammond Township, present. Cleveland.
Cleveland, Plymouth, present.
Cleveland, Plymouth, present. Cagle.
Kegel, Spring Lake Park, present.
Kegel, Spring Lake Park, present. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, Eden Prairie, present.
Katiza Watun, Eden Prairie, present. Kosnick.
Kosnick, St. Paul, present.
Kosnick, St. Paul, present. Creshaw.
Creshaw, Little Falls, present.
Creshaw, Little Falls, present. Lee.
Lee, St. Paul, present.
Lee, St. Paul, present. Liebling.
Liebling, Rochester, present.
Liebling, Rochester, present. Lilly.
Lily, North St. Paul, present.
Lilly, North St. Paul, present. Lippert.
Lippert, Northfield, present.
Lippert, Northfield, present. Listlegard.
Listlegard, Aurora, present.
Listlegard, Aurora, present. Long.
Long, St. Paul, present.
Long, St. Paul, present. Lucero.
Lucero, Wright County, present.
Lucero, Wright County, present. Lewick.
Lewick, St. Paul, present.
Lewick, St. Paul, present. Mariani.
Mariani, St. Paul, present.
Mariani, St. Paul, present. Markwart.
Markwart, Dilworth, present.
Markwart, Dilworth, present. Mason.
Mason, Egan, present.
Mason, Egan, present. McDonald.
McDonald, Delano, present.
McDonald, Delano, present. Mecklin.
Mecklin, Becker Township, present.
Did you get that? Mecklin, Becker Township, present. Miller. Miller, St. Paul, present. Moller.
Moller, Shoreview, present.
Moller, Shoreview, present. Moran.
Moran, St. Paul, present.
Moran, St. Paul, present. Morris.
Your name got called.
Morrison.
So what
Morrison, Deep Haven, present.
Morrison, Deep Haven, present. Mortensen.
Mortensen, St. Paul, present.
Mortensen, St. Paul, present. Mueller. Mueller, St. Paul, present. Munson. Munson. Murphy.
Murphy, Hermantown, present.
Murphy, Hermantown, present. Nash. Nash, St. Paul, present. Nelson M.
Nelson M., Brooklyn Park, present.
Nelson M. Brooklyn Park, present. Nelson N.
Nelson M., St. Paul, present.
Nelson N. St. Paul, present. New Brindley. New Brindley, St. Paul, present. Nor.
No, Minneapolis, present.
Nor, Minneapolis, present. Novotny.
Bonnie Elk River, present.
Novotny, Elk River, present. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll, St. Paul, present. Olson B.
Olson B., St. Paul, present.
Olson B, St. Paul, present. Olson L.
Olson L. St. Paul, present.
Olson L, St. Paul, present. O'Neill.
O'Neill, St. Paul, present.
O'Neill, St. Paul, present. Pulowski.
Pulowski, Winona, present.
Pulowski, Winona, present. Petersburg.
Petersburg, St. Paul, present.
Petersburg, St. Paul, present. Farr.
Farr, St. Paul, present.
Farr, St. Paul, present. Pearson.
Pearson, Rochester Township, present.
Pearson, Rochester Township, present. Pinto.
Pinto, Willow River, present.
Pinto, Willow River, present. Poston.
Poston, Lakeshore, present.
Poston, Lakeshore, present. Pryor.
Pryor, Minnetonka, present.
Pryor, Minnetonka, present. Quam.
Quam, Byron, present.
Quam, Byron, present. Raleigh.
Raleigh, St. Paul, present.
Raleigh, St. Paul, present. Rasmussen. Rasmussen, St. Paul, present. Ryer.
Ryer, Egan, present.
Ryer, Egan, present. Richardson.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present. Robbins. Robbins, St. Paul, present. Sandell.
Sandell, Woodbury, present.
Sandell, Woodbury, present. Sandsted.
Sandsted, Hibbing, present.
Sandsted, Hibbing, present. Schumacher.
Schumacher, Laverne, present.
Schumacher, Laverne, present. Schultz.
Schultz, Duluth, present.
Schultz, Duluth, present. Scott.
Scott, Andover, present.
Scott, Andover, present. Stevenson.
Stevenson, St. Paul, present.
Stevenson, St. Paul, present. Sundin.
Sundin, St. Paul, present.
Sundin, St. Paul, present. Swazinski.
Swazinski, Northern Township, present.
Swazinski, Northern Township, present. Tice.
Tice, St. Cloud, present.
Tice, St. Cloud, present. Thompson. Thompson. Torkelson.
Torkelson, St. Paul, present.
Torkelson, St. Paul, present. Erdahl.
Erdahl, Acton Township, present.
Erdahl, Acton Township, present. Vang. Vang, St. Paul, present. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, White Bear Township, present.
Wozlowick, White Bear Township, present. West.
West Blaine, present.
West Blaine, present. Winkler. Winkler, St. Paul, present. Wolgamott. Wolgamott, St. Paul, present. Zhang Jie.
Zhang J. St. Paul, present.
Zhang Jie, St. Paul, present. Zhang T.
Zhang T. St. Paul, present.
Zhang T. St. Paul, present. Joachim.
Joachim Hopkins, present.
Joachim Hopkins, present. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, St. Paul, present. Barr.
Barr, East Bethel, present.
Barr, East Bethel, present. Doubt.
Doubt, Crown, present.
Doubt, Crown, present. Munson.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present. Thompson. Thompson.
Members using the remote voting application should also make sure to have pressed the green yes button. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 92nd Session, 2021, 9th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, February 1st, 2021.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File number 279.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 648 through 790.
First reading, House Files 648 through 790. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 258. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading, Senate file number 258, an act relating to uniform probate code. Long move that Senate file number 258 and House file number 279, now on the general register, be referred to the chief clerk for comparison.
Without objection, so ordered. Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Winkler from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designates the following bill to be placed on the calendar for the day for Thursday, February 4th, 2021, and establish the pre-filing requirement for amendments offered to the following bill. House File number 114.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 114. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 114, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to civil actions, the first engrossment.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. During the 2020 session, after the pandemic started, we passed a law that suspended court-related deadlines that are set out in statute. And that suspension is set to sunset on February 15th. The language we enacted at the time regarding the running of deadlines has caused some confusion, and the Minnesota State Bar Association has requested this clarifying language. While this bill may not be the most exciting to members, except perhaps those of us on the Judiciary Committee who like to geek out about these things, it is important to practitioners. Under the bill we enacted previously, there is a question as to whether the clock for the statute of limitations stopped ticking and then will resume again on February 15th, or whether any of the deadlines that would have expired during the pandemic will now expire on February 15th. This has essentially caused problems in the real estate world, and I should note that this bill is supported by the Realtors Association. The bill makes clear that we intend the latter of the two interpretations, that any deadlines that would have expired when the suspension was in effect will now expire, as opposed to start the clock ticking again. However, because of the confusion created by the prior language and the fast approaching February 15th date, the bill extends the expiration for 2 months until April 15th. And members, I'm glad to answer any questions you have about House File 114.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 114.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. Any further discussion to the bill? Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no further discussions, and I'm happy to answer questions and ask for your support, members.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Those who are voting remotely, please vote. Will the clerk call the names of those members who have not voted yet?
Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Doubt.
Doubt votes aye.
Doubt, aye. Davids.
David's aye.
Davids, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Franzen.
Franzen votes aye.
Franzen, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Hanson, R.
Hanson, R, aye.
Hanson, R, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Liebling.
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Martiani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, aye. Mason.
Mason, aye.
Mason, aye. McDonald.
Donald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, aye.
Murphy, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, aye. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, aye.
Pryor, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, aye.
Richardson, aye. Thompson. Thanks. Thompson, aye. West.
West, aye.
West, aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 132 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail.
Her moves that House File Number 400 be recalled from the Committee on Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law and be re-referred to the Committee on Housing, Finance, and Policy.
Representative Herr, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is my motion. This is a bill that allows for the termination of lease upon infirmity of the tenant. This bill should start in the Housing, Finance, and Policy before it travels through to Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law. I've talked with both chairs, and they are supportive of this motion. Members, I would appreciate your support.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no.
Aye.
The motion prevails.
Eklund moves that House File Number 196 be returned to its author.
Representative Eklund, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill was put in because the deputy sheriff, names a stretch of highway after a deputy sheriff that was a high school classmate of Representative Sundin and I, but it is not in my district. And when the member of that district told me that he was introducing that bill, because I don't believe in playing around in other members' districts, I told him that I would withdraw mine. So that was my motion, Madam Speaker.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no.
Aye.
The motion prevails.
House Concurrent Resolution Number 4, a concurrent resolution adopting deadlines for the 2021 regular session. Winkler moves that House Concurrent Resolution Number 4 be now adopted.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker and members, these are the deadlines for the 2021 regular session. I ask for your support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
McDonald and others are introducing House Concurrent Resolution Number 5, a House Concurrent Resolution relating to Minnesota's peacetime emergency. The concurrent resolution is being referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, February 8th, 2021.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, February 8th, 2021. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
No.
Aye.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 3:30 p.m. Monday, February 8th, 2021.